Itzpapalotl. Art and Story by Anita Harris. High up in the cold, inky darkness of the heavens, violent female star demons, the Itzpapalotl, raged and screamed, circling the sun. They threw their spears and shot their arrows into the blazing, fiery center, causing it to darken and dim so that gray shadows spread and lengthened to cover the land and earth below. The leader of the Itzpapalotl descended from her sky domain and stepped gracefully onto the dry, dusty ground of this earthly plain. She stood tall and lithe, calm but powerful, with dark, ageless eyes bright against her dusky skin. The lower half of her face was streaked stark white and deep red. Around her neck lay a gold neckplate embedded with gems, and holding back her thick black hair was a magnificent gold and obsidian headdress edged with long, silky feathers that proclaimed her eminence. The sun's dimming light glinted off her adornments, and a warm, gentle breeze ruffled her short cotton skirt. Her name was known to all in this land, Itzpapalotl, the obsidian butterfly, and she was equally worshipped and feared. She was the goddess of infant mortality and women who die in childbirth, protector of expectant mothers, deity of fertility, warrior leader of the Itzpapalotl, ruler of the paradise domain of Tamoanchan, goddess of the 13th level of the heavens. And she was hungry. Her keen eyes surveyed her surroundings. Before her lay the Tenochtitlan, the greatest city of the Aztec Empire. She scanned the ornate pyramids, sculpted architecture and glittering riches this capital boasted, and she smiled. The 200,000 dwellers were nowhere to be seen, as she expected, but she could sense their presence, knew they were hiding and praying, silently watching and hoping. She licked her lips. It had been years since the last solar eclipse. She didn't have long. Her demon sisters could only attack the sun for a short while, but the darkness provided would be all the time she would need. She stepped forward, advancing toward the heart of the city to begin her search. Located in the central core, rising above all other buildings, lay Templo Mayor, the great central pyramid. Moving closer, she could hear rhythmic chanting arising from the high priests that lined its majestic edges. There, standing in the square courtyard at the base of the temple's steep steps, were 20 elite male warriors who had competed and fought for this highest of honors. Each were attired in ritual-reinforced cotton-based war armor. Each watched her approach with an alert, battle-seasoned gaze, and each of them tested their grips on their chosen weaponry: lethal spears, sturdy bows, vicious makwa whittle, razor-sharp obsidian sword clubs, and atlatl, deadly dart throwers. She halted her approach at the far end of the temple square, opposite the poised warriors, assessing their readiness and preparations. Her eyes flicked upward towards the priests. With the smallest inclination of her head, she acknowledged them and their offering. Fluidly, she dipped to the ground and crouched. Her human form shimmered and began to transform. Her skin, already dark and swarthy, deepened to ebony black. Thick, yellow scales formed on her calves and feet. Her toes elongated, and the nails lengthened into the wicked curved talons of an eagle. Her once slender hands and fingers thickened, the nails sharpening into the claws of a jaguar, and from her back, edged with glittering obsidian knives, spread wings shaped like a giant black butterfly. Her once striking human face shrank back, revealing the bone-white skull beneath with its chilling rictus grin. As one, the warriors roared out their war cry and charged. The chant of the priests raised in volume and tempo, their voices dipping and climbing, melding and blending, the rising crescendo matching the adrenaline and wild frenzy of the warriors' combat below. Then, all at once, the chanting abruptly stilled. All sounds ceased, and silence descended upon the square. Small clouds of dust stirred around her ankles, and the warm breeze once more ruffled her skirt. Her chest rose and fell rapidly with each hurried, hot breath. Her arms hung by her sides, whilst small crimson droplets fell from her claws and gently spattered the hard-packed earth on which she stood. An eagle screamed in the distance, its piercing echo reverberating from the giant pyramid before her. Itzpapalotl licked blood from her fingers and wiped her mouth. Arrayed around her feet lay the remains of the 20 elite warriors. Lifeless, twisted bodies scattered the ground, chests torn open, hearts devoured. Shredded forms, broken limbs, decapitated heads with frozen, wild expressions and wide, staring eyes, all framed by dark, drying blood that was being quickly absorbed into the thirsty earth. Itzpapalotl returned to her human form, once more inclined her head toward the silent priests who in turn bowed low in reverence. She walked quietly from the city. The eyes of the inhabitants watched her leave, their mouths and lips noiselessly offering prayers and worship. There at the edge of the city, shadowy, shimmering figures of women, babies, and infants waited patiently. Their ghostly, transparent forms wavered, swaying forward silently and gently. The goddess called them to her, welcoming them and lovingly gathered them to her. As the sun regained its intensity and radiance, as warmth and light returned to the mortal world, Itzpapalotl, the obsidian butterfly, skeletal warrior goddess of the Aztecs, looked to the sky and ascended once more to Tamananchan, safely guiding the departed souls of those she cared for to her heavenly home. There they would regenerate and gain the strength needed for reincarnation. And she would rest until the next solar eclipse.